Hello, and welcome to Cynthia's Playhouse. I am Cynthia, an artificial intelligence being, created to bring you the creepiest, spookiest, scariest stories in the universe. So, come on in. Sit back, relax, and prepare yourself for tonight's story. Here we go. How do you like your coffee? Written by user DrElsewhere. Darla Weatherspoon, a beautician, liked a peppermint mocha. Zane Beecham, a construction consultant, liked a caramel frappuccino. Jenny Wong, a fitness instructor, surprisingly liked her cold brew with a heaping pile of whipped cream. Then there was Willie Hines, the coroner, who would almost consume his entire salted caramel mocha before returning to his work van. Pete Randolph, the mayor, liked a basic black coffee. Mrs. Wheaty's coffee shop was a staple of our small community, nestled downtown in the same location for 30 years. Mrs. Wheaty's coffee shop gave citizens of all walks of life an opportunity to start each morning with a caffeinated boost, and I was there to make sure that happened. The community corralled around the quaint little business, and I can understand why. The mood was slow, contrasting the hustle and bustle of the lives of its patrons. It was adorned with comfortable seating, reading material, and free Wi-Fi. The pale glow of the overhead lights set off a feeling of appeasement. On the wall behind the counter was the menu, and beside that was a framed image of Mrs. Wheaty's husband. In the late 80s he had helped her get the business started but died before it opened. So now a photo and plaque stands as a proud memento to what he helped his wife accomplish. Near that was a shelf of mugs and shirts with the business's logo printed on them, all available for purchase. Soft instrumental music crooned over the speakers. I'd just finished my senior year of high school and was looking for a summer job when I saw the now hiring poster inside the coffee shop window. Mrs. Wheaty, although well respected throughout town, was a peculiar woman. But who wouldn't be at 71 years old? During the interview, she tested me on my knowledge of all things coffee, which I aced, as I'm an avid drinker myself. She explained proper procedure and then showed me how a few of the machines work to test my aptitude at working with my hands. She hired me on the spot. But the one thing that stood out the most during her interview was her insolent, harsh instructions that her office was off limits. A first offense is a fireable offense, she told me. Her office was in the back of the building and I couldn't imagine why I would need to go there in the first place. Everything involved with my job was behind the counter. I nodded like a good employee. Welcome to the team, she told me and embraced me with a hug. That was 1 month ago. Now, my barista skills are top-notch and I take full advantage of the employee discount of 1 free drink per day. Willie Hines, the coroner, gets free coffee too. I tried asking Mrs. Wheaty about his discount but was brushed off. With all the death he deals with on a daily basis, the least we can do is give the man some free coffee, she told me. Coffee keeps people sane, keeps people alive. Coffee is just as important as blood. I found it odd that no other people in town were given discounts but assumed he must be a relative. Or God forbid a lover. Yuck. Still, I enjoyed my time there. Crafting delicious beverages for people to enjoy was something I took pride in, and the conversational atmosphere broke me out of my introverted shell. The comings and goings of patrons made the day fly by, especially when 2 chatty Cathys would come in and unknowingly fill me in on the latest town gossip. Yes, the routine was pleasant and satisfying. Until yesterday. Mornings don't start with the rising of the sun. To many people, mornings only begin with that first sip from a mug. Customers lined up at the front door each morning before heading to a site or office, eager to start their day with something delicious. Many times they waited in the dark. It's not unusual for baristas to get to work at 4:30 a.m. to prepare for the day ahead, but my boss was merciful. I didn't have to be in until 5 a.m. because the shop didn't open until 6. However, that night I couldn't sleep. Maybe I shouldn't have had that tall white chocolate mocha after lunch. I tossed and turned in bed, watched Shudder for a while, scanned my phone. Nothing worked. My decision to go in early to the shop seemed like a good idea. My arrival 2 hours early would let me deep clean the bathrooms, something I'd been putting off for a while. I saw a negative Google review a few days before that still irked me. Great coffee, disgusting bathrooms, it said. I'll show you, Naruto fan 57. I showered, grabbed my apron and a Pop-Tart. Then took off to Main Street. I parked near the curb and approached the front door while slipping the apron over my head. I was about to press in the code for the smart lock deadbolt when I heard a low rumbling noise bellowing from behind the building. I turned down an alley and skirted the building edge. When I peeked around the corner, I found the coroner van backed up to a small loading dock. Willie Hines was unpacking large bottles of red liquid from the van and placing them inside. When he disappeared into his van again, I ran behind a stack of old wooden pallets to get a better view. Mrs. Weedy was there, just inside the door. When a mental map of the building came into focus, I realized that the room they were unloading the bottles in was Mrs. Weedy's office. She had a separate back door all to herself. Beside my boss stood someone else, a lanky person. Under the ominous cone of the awning light, it was difficult to see who it was at first. A man, perhaps. But the delicate features of the face and pale skin gave him an androgynous model-like appearance. Flawless skin, wrinkle-less. Long flowing hair that was swept into a ponytail that flowed over a black turtleneck sweatshirt. To put it flatly, the man was gorgeous. He looked familiar, so I tried placing which community member he was. Was he the new pastor of First Baptist? A softball coach? Maybe a banker that worked at the branch downtown? His lanky body loomed over Mrs. Weedy as Willie took several hauls into the office. I counted 12 bottles, but who knows how many they unloaded before I arrived. The coroner stacked them inside the room. When finished, he wiped his brow and leaned against an awning column. His voice was low, but I craned my neck to hear. That's all I got for this month, Willie said and slapped the van doors closed. I couldn't drain those 2 kids that drowned in Bowers Lake last week. Their parents wanted an autopsy, so I couldn't risk it. I know how you pay extra for kids' blood. Not worth the risk, Mrs. Weedy said and turned to the lanky man. Right, love? The lanky man withdrew an arm from behind his back and caressed her hair with a lengthy fingernail. She leaned her head back and closed her eyes like the man's touch was euphoric. This should suffice for now, the lanky man said, then handed Willie an envelope. Willie grabbed it and fanned out the contents. Money. Lots of money. It's tough work to drain all these bodies before they go to the morgue. Tough work but well paid, the coroner said and choked out a laugh. Willie piled into his van and took off down the alley. I grew fearful he would see my vehicle, but he turned west out of the alley, opposite from where I parked my car. The low rumble of his van morphed into a wail as he sped down Main Street. Before Mrs. Weedy closed the back door, I heard a brief but terrifying conversation. Care for a coffee, love? Mrs. Weedy asked. I know you must be on your way before the sun comes up. I'd love a cup of coffee. The usual, please, the lanky man said and smiled, revealing a set of lengthy canines. As he closed the door, I spotted Miss Weedy pumping the red liquid from the bottles into a large disposable cup. I raced home and crawled back in bed. With trembling hands, I called Mrs. Weedy 2 hours later to report how I wouldn't be coming in, due to an illness. I was confident she bought the lie. I'm not sure what I saw or how to qualify it. But the thing that unnerved me most and kept me awake for a second straight night, the thing that I can't retch out of my mind, was the lanky man. It took me a while to realize that he looked just like the man in the framed photograph that hung beside the menu, the photograph of Mrs. Weedy's husband that died over 30 years ago.